This is part 134 of ASP.NET tutorial. In this video, we'll discuss adding image slideshow to a website using ASP.NET Ajax and C#. So this is what we want to achieve. Notice that I have this images folder which has got few images. We want to display one image at a time on a web form in an image control. And the image that is displayed within this image control should be changed automatically every 1 second, and that should happen without user having to post the page back to the server. Let's see how to achieve this. Obviously the first step here is to create an ASP.NET web application project, which I have already done. So here we have a new ASP.NET web application project. I just named it image slideshow. All I have done so far is created a new ASP.NET web application project. Okay, and the next step is to add images folder to the project. This folder is going to store the images that we want to display within the image control. So let's go ahead and add images folder. Okay, for the purposes of this demo, we're going to make use of the pictures that are shipped with Microsoft operating system. And to get to those pictures, click on the Start button, type pictures, and then click on this link, on this pictures link. This should take you to library pictures, where you should find sample pictures folder. Double click on that. So there we go. We have all the sample pictures that are shipped with the Microsoft operating system. And if you notice, the path is this one, c:\users public pictures sample pictures, the same as what you see here. Okay, so I'm going to copy these pictures, and then I have already pasted them into images folder, which is in my C drive, and then I have renamed these pictures to use numbers in sequence: 1.jpg, 2.jpg to 8.jpg. So these are the original names of the images, but I have renamed them to use numbers in sequence. In a bit you'll understand why we will have to rename them. Alright, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy them and then paste them into the images folder. So now, the solution explorer in our project is very much similar to what we have, in this image here. Okay. So the next step is to drag and drop script manager control onto the web form. You can find the script manager control under Ajax extensions within the toolbox. So we need to drag and drop this onto this web form. But first of all, let's get rid of this default content that's already there on this default.aspx web form. Okay, so at the moment when we navigate to this, it displays the default content, but we don't want all this content. So let's go ahead and get rid of this content from there. And then let's drag and drop the script manager control onto the web form. Now, if you're wondering why are we using the script manager control, this is one of the Ajax extensions control. Now, if we have to take advantage of ASP.NET Ajax, then we need to have an instance of this control on that web form. In a later video session, we'll discuss more about the script manager control. Okay. So the next step is to actually use the update panel, but we'll come back to that in just a bit. Now, we're going to drag and drop a timer control and an image control, and in a bit you'll understand what we are going to do with those two controls. Now let me first drag and drop this timer control, which you can find again under Ajax extensions, and then I'm going to drag and drop an image control, because that's the control which we are going to use to display the image. So there we go, we have an image control and a timer control. Now this timer control, let's flip this web form to the design mode, and this timer control, if you get to the properties, notice that there is an interval property. Now this interval property is basically in milliseconds. Look at the help here, the duration between tick events in milliseconds. So basically, if I set this interval property, for example, to 1000, then this interval is in milliseconds, so 1000 milliseconds is equal to 1 second. So every 1 second, this control is going to raise an event called tick event. Just like how a button control has a click event, timer control has got this tick event, and this event is raised whenever this duration has elapsed. So what's our requirement? We want the image that is displayed within the image control to be changed every 1 second, and for that to happen we have to post the web form back to the server, and when it gets posted back, that's when we have to write the logic to change the image there. So, but the user shouldn't be posting the page back to the server. We want that to happen automatically. So this timer control is what is going to, post the web form back to the server every 1 second. Okay, and since we have specified 1000 milliseconds here, the tick event is going to be raised every 1000 milliseconds, that is every 1 second. Okay, so the next step is to actually generate the event handler for the tick event. So here we have the tick event. We can either double click on here, or we can double click on this control itself. Since the tick event is the default event for this timer control, an event handler will get auto generated for us. Okay, now what we are going to do here, we are going to write logic to change the image dynamically, that's being displayed within our image control. So what we want to do is, we want to create an instance of a random class, and let's call it rand. So this random class has got a function called next, which is going to generate a random number for us. Now notice the image names that we have. We have images from 1 to 8. Now we want to display an image within the image control at random. Okay, every 1 second. So I'm going to tell this random object to generate a random number between 1 and 8 for us. Okay, so the minimum, I'm going to use an overloaded version, where we can specify the minimum random number that we want to generate and the maximum random number. So the minimum is going to be 1 and the maximum is going to be 8. So that's what we are going to specify here. And then let's store it in a variable of type integer. Okay, so if you look at the return type of this function, it's an integer because it's a random integer. Okay, and then what we are going to do here is, obviously we have an image control, and the ID of the image control is image1. So we want to set the image URL property of this image control, and we are going to do that. So image1 dot image URL is equal to, now where are our images present? They are present in this images directory, which is present within the root directory of our web application project. So to get to the root directory, we use / images / we need to specify the name of the image. So which image you want to display, 1, 2, 3. Now that's determined by this variable I. So to this string, I'm going to concatenate the value of I, which will be either 1, 2, 3, 4, and then to that the extension of the image. What is the extension of the image? .jpg. So let's concatenate that. Okay, so now if you look at this expression right here, it's going to give the path for the image that we are going to display within the image control. Okay, now you might have understood the reasoning behind changing the names, to use numbers in sequence, because we want a random number, and then the name of the image is going to match one of these random numbers that is generated. That's the reason why we'll have to use these numbers instead of these names. Okay, all right, so we have those images there, and then basically look at this. With all these changes, if I go ahead and run this, actually when the web form is first displayed, you'll notice that it's not going to display any image. So basically, look at that. You didn't notice that, but when I refresh this page, first 1 second, notice that it didn't display anything. So first of all, as soon as the image is web form is loaded, we want an image to be displayed. So first let's go ahead and fix that. So obviously in the page load event, we need to invoke this logic. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to extract this into its own method. So I'm going to refactor this, extract a method. Let's call this set image URL. So we want that as the function name. So, and we want to call this function even in the page load. So if it is the first initial get request, so if not is post back. So let's call this function so that the first time when the web form is loaded, it immediately will display an image, and then on the subsequent time this event gets raised every 1 second, at which point it's going to load the image. Okay, So let's run this. So notice that as soon as the web form loads, it will display an image there. Okay. Now the problem is here the image size is too big. We don't want, this big image to be displayed. Let's say I want the image height and width to be 200 pixels. So how do we adjust that? Simply go back to your default page and then set the height and width for the image. So height is equal to 200 pixels and width is also going to be 200 pixels. So depending on your project requirement, you can adjust the height and width, and the moment we do that, look at that, the image gets changed every 1 second. But then notice that the problem here is that the screen flickers. Look at that, you can see that there is a post back, and then basically you notice that here, the entire page is posted back to the server, and the server sends the response for the entire web form back. That's why you have a screen flicker there. So here we are actually doing a full page post back. Instead of that, let's do a partial page post back. I don't want to post, the entire web form. Instead, I just want to post back, this portion, because every time we post the web form and come back, only this portion needs to be updated. Okay, so I just want to do a partial page post back, in which case, only this piece of content will be posted to the server, the web form does its processing, and only the HTML corresponding to that region will be sent back as the response. Okay, let's see how to achieve partial page postbacks. To achieve that, we can use something called update panel. So let's close all these windows. So within Ajax extensions, we have something called update panel. So let's drag and drop this update panel onto this web form. So this update panel helps us achieve partial page postback. So this control allows us to perform partial page postbacks as opposed to a full page postback. Now the responsiveness of a page can be significantly increased using partial page postback, as only the data that is relevant to the update panel is sent to the server does its processing, and only the corresponding data as far as the update panel is concerned, that is sent back to the client. So as a result of this, the responsiveness of the page can be significantly increased. And another greatest benefit of partial page postback is that they avoid screen flickers, which are very common with full page postback. We have just seen how the web form basically flickers on every postback. Let's see how we can avoid that using this update panel. Okay, so we can put this timer and image controls within that update panel, but then within update panel we need to have something called content template. So all the content of the update panel must go inside that content template. And there is something else called triggers, which we will discuss in a later video session. So let's format this HTML by pressing Ctrl K, Ctrl D. Alright, let's save all this and let's navigate to that default page. Now we should have a partial page postback, and there should be no screen flickers. Look at that, you don't have any screen flickers, only this portion of the web form is updated. Now this is happening every 1 second. If you want that to be changed, all you need to do is change the interval here. Now it's 1000 milliseconds, which is 1 second. If you want the image to be changed maybe every 100 milliseconds, then you can change it to 100. But then look at the speed at which the image gets changed. Obviously we don't want to do something like that. Let's say I want to change the interval to 2 seconds. We can do that as well. So now the image here is changed every 2 seconds. Alright. Now at the moment, the problem with this code that we have written is that it displays a random image every 1 second. Now the images are not being displayed in sequence. Okay, they are being displayed at random. Now let's say our project requirement is such that we want to display images in order, that is from 1.jpg to next 2.jpg, next 3.jpg until 8.jpg. Once it reaches number 8, we again want to start from 1. So but always it has to display the images in order. And also we want to display the number of the image that is being displayed, so that we know the images are being displayed in order. Let's see how to fix these in our next video session. On this slide you can find resources for ASP.NET, C# and SQL Server interview questions. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.